Good morning. Welcome to Unitarian Universalist Church in Eugene, and good morning, Zoom friends. We are glad you are with us today, and Rev Jen is serving as your Zoom chaplain today. My name is Ember. I use the pronouns they, them, and I am a medium-sized human in a clerical collar and a head wrap. I serve as our intern minister, and I will be this morning's worship associate. This morning, we begin our observance of Transgender Day of Remembrance, leading to Wednesday's service at 6 p.m. in the chapel. I am happy to introduce to you our guest preacher, the Reverend Laura Randall, Director for Congregation Relations at the Unitarian Universalist Service Committee. Prior to joining UUSC, Laura's ministry included serving as the Legacy Campaign Director for the Unitarian Universalist Association and hospice chaplaincy. She joins us from her home in Medford, Massachusetts, which she shares with her spouse and their 2 dogs. Welcome, Laura. Thank you for being with us today. All the information you need to know about today's service can be found in our handy guide to Sunday worship. If you didn't get one, please wave your hand and one of our greeters will bring one to you. We will also make sure that I have a greeter in the room. Thank you. I will have you wave your hands again. There we go. And Zoom friends, our tech team will drop a copy of the order of service and a visitor form in the chat. Now, let us prepare our hearts and minds for this time of worship by lighting the flaming chalice, symbol of our Unitarian Universalist faith. I would like to invite Member Austin, who will be lighting our chalice as I share these words by Jamie Yandel. The chalice is lit, and in the flames the memory of our trans and non-binary ancestors do a dance of freedom and liberation, reminding us that we are whole and holy, we are loved beyond all measure, and in our refusal to accept anything else, may we know we are rooted in the infinite divinity, not relegated to the outskirts of the web of all existence, but enshrined at its core, enfleshed with stardust and fairy dust, an intentional creation of space where our many gods live. If you didn't have a chance to light a candle or place a stone in water before the service started at these 3 tables, you may do so now. As always, please be mindful of the people who may not be able to stand in line comfortably. Perhaps let them go in front of you.
The day we are in is not unprecedented entirely. America has been unjust before, has ignored both its laws and what higher law the soul can sense. That each person is a human, and as a human, it turns out that their life and their body belongs exclusively to them. That is, if they come for my queer body, I will resist. For totalitarianism to thrive, there must be an enemy created. We have watched, as queers, as trans and non-binary folk, as our black and brown neighbors, workers, have been made into the wanted poster, unwanted faces. The mild reaction of many people I would have trusted communicates clearly that they see no danger, and that I should wait until it gets bad. America, your sickness makes me sit and weep. We will rise, of course, but will it be enough? The babies are already in cages. Is that not your alarm? Are you not awake? Bolt upright? Your trans kin are stuck struggling to navigate systems that actively exert the power to define them out of existence, to deny travel documents, health care. America, is this freedom? Who is free? All is not lost, but some is gone. The part of society that could assume that being decent was enough of an expectation to keep us civil is discovering that disconnected from values, any practice can be destructive. The time to politely look away as though cruelty is merely somewhat impolite expired some time back. We must get free. Do something to be faithful. Do something to interrupt evil. Do not wait. Do it now. The time we have left for collecting courage and dealing in compassion is not unlimited. But this is still your day. Move into it in your power and your love.
Hi, friends. I'm so glad you're here. Truly, in the midst of the profound heartbreak many of us are experiencing, you did the most powerful thing there is. You reached out for community. That is no small thing. It's an honor to be invited into your community today from across the country on this Trans Day of Remembrance Sunday, to be with you as we grieve together, take comfort in each other, and ask each other, what now? First, I want to affirm that whatever you've been feeling these last 11 days and what you're feeling right now is all valid. Our nervous systems are responding to a threat bearing down on us, and some of us may be feeling this much more acutely, depending on the identities and privileges we and our families hold. We are wrestling with feelings of confusion, anger, distrust, and danger. When presented with a threat as humans, we tend to respond in several ways. Perhaps your flight response has been activated and you are researching how to leave the country. Perhaps your fight response has come to the fore and you're already planning on how you will resist the authoritarian regime that's coming our way. Perhaps your freeze response has taken over and you've been unable to move or accomplish basic tasks. Or perhaps you're dissociating to protect yourself and you're feeling numb and foggy. All of these responses are valid and all of them make sense given our current circumstances. Personally, I've been going through all of them these last 2 weeks. Additionally, we are grieving. Grief is loud and messy and painful, and it must be felt if we're going to be able to transform this grief into something that can support life. Grief ignored and buried within us will fester and rot and come out in destructive ways in the future. So, friends, I want to encourage you not to try to avoid or rush past this grief. There's no right or wrong way to do this, and it will look different for everyone. Reach towards the coping mechanisms that foster grounding and connection. You've already done that this morning by showing up here. Let's give each other and ourselves grace right now. We're all going through it, and it's okay not to be okay. One of the grounding practices I frequently reach towards when despair wraps its fist around my heart is to look to the justice movements of the past and how justice makers around the world carry forward that legacy today. Working for the UU Service Committee, better known as UUSC, I get to witness the incredible tapestry of connections and imagination that make them possible. UUSC is an international human rights organization grounded in Unitarian Universalist values that has been a powerful force for justice since its founding in 1940 in response to the rise of Nazism. UUSC's work is based on a partnership model that centers the experience and leadership of the people who are most impacted by injustice. This partnership includes support of some of the scrappiest, most creative, and courageous groups of people you can imagine. They're working for justice, often under very dangerous conditions. The founding of UUSC to resist fascism seems particularly apt right now. And it seems like a good time to retell the story of our most beloved symbol, the chalice. I know we talked about that a bit during our time for all ages, but it is the chalice itself that most strongly calls us to the work of resisting oppressive systems such as racism, sexism, and fascism, and promoting human rights for all people while caring for the precious earth we share. Our chalice, as sacred as it is to us, wasn't always the symbol of the Unitarian and Universalist faiths. In 1940, Reverend Dr. Charles Rynne Joy was sent by the newly created Unitarian Service Committee to Lisbon, Portugal, which was the only port open in Europe at the time and therefore saw many refugees who were fleeing the Nazi regime. Many of these refugees had to flee without any of the identification papers that were required to cross borders. So Joy decided to start making those identification papers issued by the UUSC itself. This was uncharted water, but instead of focusing on the risks that he and the organization might be taking by doing this, Joy focused instead on saving the lives of those fleeing fascism. He also decided that these papers needed a seal to look as official as other travel papers. And so he asked Hans Dusch, an Austrian refugee and artist working in Lisbon, to create one. And the result is the basis of the flaming chalice as we know it now. While all this was happening, Waitstill and Martha Sharp were also sent to Europe by the Unitarian Service Committee, where they were not only falsifying documents to get people out, but also laundering money when necessary. UUSC's founders lived by the principle that good people disobey bad laws. So you see, the thing that binds us all together as Unitarian Universalists, the chalice, was founded on our commitment to human rights and to fighting fascism. Since the founding of the Unitarian Universalist Service Committee, we've been committed to supporting the work of liberation, even when, maybe especially when, it involves making holy trouble for the powers that would deny anyone their full humanity. We use the word partner and partnership a great deal at UUSC because our grassroots partners, people who are directly impacted by the oppression and human rights violations that we are trying to address, are at the center of our work. We believe that communities bearing the brunt of climate force displacement, criminalization, and humanitarian crisis are also the communities that hold the solutions. This belief is at the core of everything we do at UUSC, the belief in the inherent worth and power of every person. This is why we engage in partnerships, not transactions. 50 years ago, the Guest at Your Table program was started to bring the stories of our global partners into congregations, to invite our partners through their stories into your worship services and around your kitchen tables as if we were all sharing a meal together. One of our featured guests this year are the organizers of the Pink Haven Coalition, a network of activists and organizations working to help trans and gender expansive people who are fleeing unsafe states. Because of safety concerns, we cannot name an individual from Pink Haven as our guest, but I know that our tables are big enough to welcome the whole crew. Perhaps you saw the profile on Pink Haven in UU World magazine, or you watched the presentation of the UUA's Volunteer Service Award to the Pink Haven Coalition at General Assembly this past June. Two-spirit, trans, and gender expansive people have been targets of the right for decades, but the escalation in recent years is profound. 38 states currently have anti-transgender legislation on their books, with the number of new bills growing by the day. Today, the ACLU is tracking 530 anti-LGBTQI bills that are in process in various state legislatures across the country, most of them anti-trans laws. That's 530 today. In 2015, the number of bills was 8. These bills are trying to legislate trans and queer people out of existence. Please note this is not hyperbole. This has been central to the Republican platform for a decade. Michael Knowles said in his speech at the 2023 Conservative Political Action Conference that transgender people must be eradicated from public life. Trump and other Republican candidates spent $215 million this election cycle on anti-trans ads, a strategy that they think worked, and so they're really leaning in even more now. Because of these laws and this hostile environment, trans people in the United States now meet the definition of internally displaced people, or IDPs, by the United Nations. Additionally, these laws and the misinformation and hateful rhetoric surrounding them embolden physical violence against trans people, in addition to the legislative, medical, and economic violence already heaped upon them. The city of Odessa, Texas, recently instituted a $10,000 bounty for any trans person who uses a public restroom that aligns with their gender identity. This law is practically guaranteed to encourage vigilante violence. Hundreds of thousands of trans people and their families have already fled their homes to safer states, with more than 1 million considering doing so, according to a recent Data for Progress survey. Early last year, an organization led by trans activists approached UUSC and asked if we could help trans folks relocate to safer states. They saw the work that UUSC is doing in congregations and supporting asylum seekers and wondered if Unitarian Universalists had the kind of networks, infrastructure, and desire to support a different kind of asylum seeker, one driven from their US-based homes and communities. And of course, UUSC said yes. In this work with trans activists, we are in coalition with other progressive faith organizations, mutual aid groups, and others who are committed to fighting back against the rising tide of fascism in the United States. We are working together to create networks of safety and direct support for trans beloveds and their families who need to relocate, access healthcare across state lines, or stay as safe as possible where they are. What brought us to this place where trans folks are being scapegoated by the right and states are actively trying to legislate them out of existence? A myriad of factors, but one of the most important is the rise of fascism and authoritarianism in the United States. The Reverend Jim Vody addressed this phenomenon in his 2023 Skinner House sermon called Resisting Tyranny. He wrote, "Under fascism, you have an autocrat who believes in the cultural superiority and political supremacy of the country he leads. And he believes in the use of his concentrated power and unlimited violence to uphold the country's supremacy and its purity against perceived internal and external threats." In 1930s Germany, the made-up threat was the Jewish community. And right now in our own country, trans folks are the made-up threat of choice. It is no accident that the percentage of Jews in Germany in 1933 and the percentage of trans-identified adults in the US today is nearly identical. The strategy of demonizing a tiny, often misunderstood minority and using religion to do so is another tactic right out of the authoritarian playbook. Tyrants always punch down for political gain. The non-binary poet and activist Alok recently wrote that the best way to eliminate a group is to demonize them, such that their disappearance is seen as an act of justice, not discrimination. Whew. Take a breath with me. This is heavy stuff. Trans, non-binary, and gender-expansive people have been chosen as the political scapegoat at this particular moment in time, not just because of their numbers compared to the cisgender population of the United States. It is also because of the power they hold. The power to topple a patriarchal system that absolutely depends on binaries and hierarchy. From the moment we take our first breath, our lives begin to be defined by the anatomy perceived by those around us. It's a boy or it's a girl. 3 words begin a cascade of rules, perceptions, and expectations. As we grow, maybe these expectations seem perfectly comfortable, or maybe they only chafe sometimes, or maybe they are utterly suffocating. And the really insidious trick of enforcing a gender binary, of believing that reality is only black or white, this or that, is that we soon learn to police ourselves. We become the wardens of our own prisons because we have been so instilled with the fear of what will happen if we don't. There's been a multi-century PR campaign, said Alok in a recent interview, that tells us if we express ourselves and cultivate a life around authenticity, then we will suffer. So it is better to remain silent, to remain still, and to fit into other people's ideas of who we should be. Friends, to cultivate a life around authenticity is a radical act of rebellion in this world. To do the introspective work necessary to ask yourself questions to discover who you really are, not who you were told you are, this is the kind of life affirming, soul strengthening, community celebrating work that everyone can do, that everyone should do. And our trans and gender expansive kin are showing us the way. Trans and gender expansive beloveds, you are the prophets of the possible. You are showing us that gender is not a binary or even a spectrum, but a galaxy of infinite incarnations waiting to be explored. Alok writes in their poem, We Remain Incorrigible, that the body is not a fleshy prison for the spirit. We transcend the arbitrary boundaries drawn around our skin. We are so much more than the physical. There are as many ways to exist as there are existences. Please note that I'm not suggesting we do away with the concepts of man and woman. If you like them, if they fit you, or what you aspire to, wonderful. What I'm saying is that everyone should have the freedom to decide for themselves what these terms mean and if they want to claim them for themselves or not. Please also hear that none of this is new. Trans and gender expansive people have always existed and they always will. The history of gender expansive people has often been deliberately erased or distorted by colonial powers. Many cultures around the world have 3, 4, or more genders in their society. Now that the federal government is primed to be weaponized against trans and gender expansive beloved, the need to support the Pink Haven Coalition has never been greater. We are working with them to build welcoming villages in safer states with sanctuary protections, states like Oregon. We're also raising money for immediate emergency grants to families and individuals who need to flee before their rights and safety become even more restricted next year. As one of the UUSC staff members who helps monitor Pink Haven's email box, we have been flooded with requests for assistance and guidance this last week and a half. We know that lives are on the line. And just as our religious ancestors did in 1940, and in the 84 years since then, I know that Unitarian Universalists are going to continue to come together to meet this moment. My colleague in New Orleans, the Reverend Sarah Green, told a story about her children who had been raised in Tennessee and were about to go camping at a state park in Louisiana for the first time. They had lots of questions. Most of these questions were about alligators. What do they eat? Are they fast? What do you do if one is chasing you? She told them that alligators eat what they can catch. Yes, they are fast. And she offered several options in case it happened that an alligator started to chase them, including running in a zigzag pattern and rapping the alligator sharply on the snout with a stick. You don't have to lay down and get eaten, she told them. You have options. Beloved ancestor Bell Hooks wrote, "One of the most vital ways we sustain ourselves is by building communities of resistance, places where we know we are not alone." Our Unitarian Universalist Service Committee, this congregation, the Pink Haven Coalition, every mutual aid and global solidarity effort, all of our libraries, all communities of resistance, places where we know we are not alone. And this is where we are invited to show up and live through what's next together. As Reverend Green reminds us, we don't have to lay down and get eaten. We have options. We have options, friends. Our justice loving ancestors are showing us the way. Our global partners in the movement for human rights and climate justice are showing us the way. Our gender expansive beloveds are showing us the way. Our Unitarian Universalist values are showing us the way. Stay with us, friends. Together we will mourn and resist, disrupt and heal, weep, sing, and imagine. Together we will persevere. If you want to get involved with Pink Haven on a deeper level, I hope you will stay after the service to discuss building a welcoming village here in Eugene. Or if you can't stay today, I hope you will visit pinkhaven.org. Your donations make it possible for families to get to safety and find the resources they need to survive and thrive. The requests for relocation assistance to Pink Haven continues to grow by the day, and we can only meet this need if the generosity of others continues to grow as well. Let us proclaim to the world that our trans, two-spirit, non-binary, genderqueer, and gender expansive kin are whole, holy, and loved. Beloveds, I would like to end my time with you today with one of my favorite blessings written by Dory Midnight and Randy Farosh Stewart. This is a blessing written especially for us, my LGBTQI plus family, and I hope you will take it in. Allies and accomplices, you too can receive this blessing. So I invite you to get comfortable in your body. Close your eyes or soften your gaze and move as the Spirit moves you. Perhaps place a hand gently on your cheek. Place your hands over your heart. Blessed are you, awakener, life of all worlds, who removes sleep from my eyes and slumber from my eyelids. Blessed are you, generous creatrix, who stretches forth the earth upon the waters. Blessed are you, sacred flame, who illuminates and shines upon everyone and everything. Blessed are you, holy fashion designer, who delights in the way we dress ourselves as altars. Blessed are you, liberation worker, who moves us to stretch and expand towards freedom. Blessed are you, nameless and infinite, who made us in your image and reminds us that all bodies are sacred and holy. Blessed are you, wings of gold, who crowns my people, all people, with splendor. Blessed are you, holy breath, who fills me with this gift every day. Blessed are you, abundance, who helps me remember I have everything I need. Blessed are you, the way, who meets me where I am. Blessed are you, source of life, who I draw on for strength and who reminds me that rest is a sacred act. Blessed are you, fabulous one, who loves me just as I am. Blessed are you, weaver of being, who shaped the human being with wisdom, making for us all the openings and vessels of the body. It is known that we are miracles, and all bodies are miracles. Blessed are you, you of many names, for revealing infinite paths of healing. May it be so. Amen, and blessed be.
Thank you so much to Reverend Laura, to our chalice choir, to Joe, and to Frankie. And let us say our closing words together. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.
Friends, our service this morning is at an end, and our work has just begun. The work of holding one another and this community in love, the work of radical inclusion, the work of collective liberation, the work of this beloved community, a beloved community of which we are all a part, a place where we are welcomed, respected, valued, cherished, a place where we belong. Go in peace. Amen, and blessed be.